But 700 islands and keys found in the Bahamian Sea. There's so much here to discover. Won't you come along with me? With friends and interesting people you'll meet along the way. Come and hang along with Percy. We'll sure have some fun today. We'll sure have some fun today. We'll sure have some fun today.
This episode has been brought to you by the letter E
and the number 32.
Ready, boys and girls? Here we go.
B-A-H-A-M-A-S.
This spells Bahamas.
B-A-H-A-M-A-S.
This spells Bahamas.
B-A-H-A-M-A-S.
This spells Bahamas.
B-A-H-A-M-A-S.
This spells Bahamas. There's 700 islands and inhabited keys, all to our disposal. 350,000 plus population living in our land. A democratic government leadership, Britain's our advisor. These are important facts, no way to take them back. They're part of history.
B-A-H-A-M-A-S.
This spells Bahamas.
B-A-H-A-M-A-S.
This spells Bahamas.
B-A-H-A-M-A-S.
This spells Bahamas.
B-A-H-A-M-A-S.
This spells Bahamas. National symbols like the national anthem, written by Timothy Gibson. Our bird, the flamingo, fish, the blue marlin, flower, the yellow elder. There's the national flag, 3 colors it bears, black, gold, and aquamarine. And don't forget the tree is the lignavite, all found in the Commonwealth. Ha ha!
B-A-H-A-M-A-S.
This spells Bahamas.
B-A-H-A-M-A-S.
This spells Bahamas.
B-A-H-A-M-A-S.
This spells Bahamas.
B-A-H-A-M-A-S.
This spells Bahamas.
B-A-H-A-M-A-S.
One more time. This spells Bahamas.
B-A-H-A-M-A-S.
Hey, this spells Bahamas.
B-A-H-A-M-A-S.
This spells Bahamas.
B-A-H-A-M-A-S.
Hey, this spells Bahamas.
Alright guys, so this is Dexter, one of our Bahamian boas. Remember, these are the largest of the snakes found in the Bahamas. There's actually 5 different species of Bahamian boa. This is the Greater Bahama Banks boa. And actually 2 of those 5 species have only been discovered in the last 4 years. Now these guys are very docile. So you don't have to worry about them hurting us. They're not dangerous to people whatsoever. And you can see these beautiful colors on their back. So originally these were believed to be part of the rainbow boa family, and it's only recently, the last several years, where we've done some genetic work. Well, we haven't. We did contribute data, samples from our snakes. They were able to determine that the West Indian boas are their own separate family of snakes. They are not part of the rainbow boa family anymore, but we still love them. All right, so if you guys would like to touch Dexter today, first of all, let me give you some instructions. We're going to use 2 fingers. We want to make sure that this is comfortable for him. So we're gently going to pet in one direction, lift the fingers up and come back to the top. So that way we're petting in the directions that the scales lie. But you are welcome to touch on the back. You can feel the side, and you can touch the belly. You can feel the scales are very different there. They look different. Those scales are called scoots. They're used to help them scoot along. Yeah. So yeah, we love having these snakes around. It's one of their favorite things to eat, of course, is rats. And we don't like having those rats around. They can spread diseases. They can do damage to our food. So having a native snake or a native animal that likes to eat an invasive pest is fantastic. So it's really important that we keep these guys in our ecosystem, as they really do kind of help protect us. So over here we have our beautiful Bahama parrots. So you see they're not the blue and gold color of the Bahamian flag, but they have some gorgeous colors on them. They are a subspecies of the Cuban Amazon parrot. So you have the beautiful green, we've got the blue, the nice red, ruby red throat. So these guys are pretty special. You can find the Bahama parrots on 3 islands here in the Bahamas, Inagua, Abaco, and we're pretty lucky here in New Providence. We have a very small flock as well. Now the interesting thing is, the Bahama parrots in Abaco and Inagua are very different from each other, even though we're actually now trying to look and get funding to do some genetic work to determine if they are still the same species or if they have been separated for long enough that maybe they're separate species now. Because they have very different behavior, particularly when it comes to nesting. In Abaco, or actually I'll start with in Inagua, the parrots behave like most other parrots, particularly most other Amazon parrots. They nest in trees. Makes a lot of sense. In Abaco, our parrots nest in holes underground in the rocks. Why in the world would parrots start nesting underground? That seems pretty strange. Well, in Abaco, in the pine forest, forest fires are fairly frequent. So if you're nesting in a tree and you have fires come through, the nests are going to get wiped out. Hopefully the parents survive, but obviously the offspring wouldn't. If they're not able to fly yet. So the birds that for some reason decided to start nesting under the ground, when the fires come, the fire goes over the nest, the rocks help insulate the nest, and the birds and the babies stay safe. So that particular genetic trait was selected for, and now we have a population that nests underground up in the northern part of the Bahamas and down south in Inagua, our parrots, where there are forested areas there, where they don't have the forest fires. It's a much more humid, and there's a lot more water in that area, so they aren't as common. So there the parrots still nest in the trees. So here we have Columbus and Abaco. Columbus was actually hatched here at Adastra as part of a breeding program. Her parents are from the Inagua flock initially. And then Abaco is another one of our rescue birds. Abaco, of course, came from the Abaco flock. She had a very severe wing injury. We were able to heal up the injury, but she doesn't fly very well. So we knew that if we released her, it was unlikely that she would survive. So these two have bonded and have become best friends.
Hello, my name is Joel Thompson, and I'm an Education Officer and Discovery Club Coordinator at the Bahamas National Trust. The Bahamas National Trust manages the national parks throughout the country. That's 32 national parks, from Grand Bahama down to Inagua. The Discovery Club program is the youth arm of the Bahamas National Trust, where we mold Bahamian youth into environmental stewards. Now, in the Bahamas, we have a number of endemic species. What is endemic, you may ask? Endemic means that a species is only found in a particular area. Some of these animals include the Bahama woodstar, which is a type of hummingbird, the Bahama parrot, where there are 2 populations found here in the Bahamas, one in Inagua and one in Abaco. Now, the Abaco population of the Bahama parrot actually nests on the ground, while the Inagua population of the Bahama parrot nests in trees. There's also the Bahamian boa, where we have a subspecies of the Bahamian boa called the silver boa, which is only found on Conception Island. Because these endemic species are so important and only found here, they are very special to the Bahamas. They're Bahamians, just like us. You can do your part by protecting these endemic species by joining the Bahamas National Trust. We are the national park managers, and we are preserving the Bahamas for the future. Join us by becoming a member of the Bahamas National Trust today. Call us at 393-1317 or visit our website www.bnt.bs.
Percy the Potcake presents This Week in Bahamian History, where we discuss people, places, and things that shaped the Bahamas into what it is today.
Roland Simonet was born on December 16, 1898, to Minister Edmund and Lavania Simonet on the island of Eleuthera. Although he started his career as a school teacher, he would later get involved into the prohibition of the 1920s. He would use his newfound wealth and invest into real estate, a hotel, and a shipyard. In 1925, Mr. Simonet would enter into politics as the representative for Shirlea up to 1977. He also became the leader of the United Bahamian Party from 1958 to 1967 and would go on to become the Bahamas' first premier from 1964 to 1967, where he would be succeeded by Sir Lyndon Penland. Today, a portrait of Sir Roland Simonet appears on the Bahamian $50 note. I wonder what's going on over there. What is this?
Hey, look, it's Percy the Potcake.
What's going on, kids? May I ask what you are doing with those? Don't tell me you're playing with sharp and rusty objects. Look like Percy's gonna have to educate these kids.
What do you mean, Percy?
Sharp or rusty objects are physical and health hazard, so never play with them. And definitely don't leave them laying around. Someone could accidentally step on one, and if it's rusty, they could catch tetanus that way. Here, play with this instead.
Thanks, Percy.
If you do find sharp or rusty objects, dispose of them before someone gets hurt. Percy lesson of the day: keep sharp and rusty objects away from our kids.
Yay!
Wow, Percy, I'm really having a great time traveling around the islands with you.
Same here, Chester, but I'm getting kinda hungry. Look, Chester, there's a chocolate bar over there. Maybe I should eat it.
Percy, just because you're a potcake doesn't mean you should eat anything.
Really, Chester? Why not?
Percy, certain scrap foods and cooked bones contain toxins that are not good for your animal's digestion and may end up getting them sick or even worse. Foods such as chocolate, onions, grapes, raisins, macadamia nuts, nutmeg, alcohol, and avocados are harmful to our furry friends. So try to keep it away from them as much as possible so they can live their best lives.
Thanks, Chester. I really learned something new today.
Well, Percy, I'm getting kind of hungry, so let's head on home and get you some real food.
The word for the day is endangered. Endangered. Endangered.
An endangered species is an animal that is at risk of extinction.
Alright, so this little critter here is one of our Schneider's dwarf caiman, also called the smooth-fronted dwarf caiman. So if you look up between their eyes, they don't have any ridges or bumps on their head like most of the caimans do. So these are the second smallest of the dwarf caiman. So it seems pretty small. This animal is actually almost 4 years old. And she's going to grow to be somewhere between 4 and 5 feet long. But it's going to obviously take her quite a while to reach that length. Now, the cool thing about reptiles is that they never stop growing. They're going to grow their entire life. Now, she's got her mouth open for us right now. She is, of course, hoping for a little snack. But you can see there's no hole at the back of the throat.
Right.
How in the world do they swallow? Well, these guys have a really neat adaptation. This is common that the crocodilians have. They have something called a gular flap. I know, sounds crazy, but basically, when they open their mouth, this flap seals the back of their throat. This allows them to be a little more flexible with their hunting. So when they hunt and they catch food in the water, they're not going to swallow all of that water with their prey. So they're able to, when their mouth is open, the flaps close, they grab something, and then they're able to release, kind of pump the water out of their mouth, then open up the flap and swallow. So it prevents them from ingesting lots of salt water if they're hunting in salty areas, and also from just taking in a whole bunch of extra water that they don't necessarily need. So yeah, one of their cool adaptations that they've developed for being a predator in the water. So Butterbean is a military macaw. You can see the beautiful green colors and the little red bands. People thought these guys looked like British military officers with their red berets on. So this is another bird that is native to Central and South America. Fortunately, the military macaw population is doing okay right now, but they are facing threats due to habitat loss, pollution, and the pet trade. The pet trade isn't as big of a threat as it was previously. There are a lot of protections in place for these animals, but it is still the illegal pet trade is still a concern. So you can see when Butterbean ate, he was really, really delicate with that beak. So even though that beak is huge, they have a lot of control, and then now he's using his tongue to move that nut around in his mouth. So that tongue is really flexible, but it's not soft like ours. It's a lot harder. So they almost use it like another finger. There you go. So you can see it's moving that nut around. So that beak, of course, is incredibly strong. They use that to crack open nuts, including Brazil nuts, which are almost impossible for us to crack open without tools. Actually, I think it is impossible for most people to crack open without tools. The capybara is the largest rodent in the world. So they're in the same family as our guinea pigs, the rats, our hutia, but they're much larger. The ones that we have here are about 130 to 140 pounds, which is pretty good size for a capybara. They are both boys, they're brothers. They came to us from the Cincinnati Zoo in Ohio in the United States as part of the species survival plan. So we work with zoos all over the world to ensure the long-term survival of endangered species. So you might ask, how in the heck is having two boys helping the survival of the species? Well, with most animals, the sex ratio when they're born is pretty similar. One male, one female in general. That ratio. But in the wild, typically a male capybara is going to have several girlfriends. So it means if we're setting up breeding groups, when we have all these babies, it means we're going to end up with more boys than we necessarily have girls for. And of course, there's only so many zoos around the world. We have a limited amount of space. So we try to make sure that we're maximizing that space and how we're using it as best as possible. So these boys were part of a bachelor group at Cincinnati, but they had a really nice large facility that would accommodate a breeding group and would have been ideal for a breeding group. But they couldn't bring any girls until they found a house for some more of those boys. So we help support breeding programs by providing homes for the animals that are not recommended to breed. So these guys at some point might get a recommendation. They might say, oh, you know what, we haven't seen their genetics in the population for a while. It might be a good idea if we bring one of them back to the US. It's unlikely to happen. But for us, by giving the boys a home, that freed up a spot in Ohio for them to get custody. They brought in, I believe, 3 girls for the other boy who was staying there. And then they have the facilities and the space to take care of multiple litters of babies. And then it's going to be a lot easier for them to find homes for the babies once they're old enough and they can't stay with the family anymore. All right, up next we have our North American barn owls. Now don't be fooled by the name. These are a native species here in the Bahamas. And these two here are actually rescue birds. We do a lot of wildlife rescue and rehabilitation here at our Adastra Gardens, and a lot of people don't realize that. This isn't anything that we receive any funding for. We don't have any support from the government. We do it because it needs to be done. There isn't any other facility that's doing it at this scale. So both of these animals were orphans. One of them, Soren, who was right up here, she was actually found inside of a hotel. The Crystal Palace, when they were getting ready to demolish that, they'd taken all the windows out and everything like that. So she was found as a baby, about 20 days old, up on the 12th floor of the hotel by the construction crew, or the demolition crew. And they gave us a call and said, we found a baby bird. It's really big. We have no idea what it is. And it looks kind of scary. They definitely don't look pretty and graceful when they're babies as they do when they're adults. So yeah, we brought Soren in because she was so young. We knew it was going to be very, very, very challenging to raise her without her imprinting on us. So we took advantage of that and started training her from the very beginning as an education animal. And then we received Grumpus about 2 months later. He was a little older. He was about 5 weeks old at the time that we rescued him. So we were really hoping he'd had enough time with his parents that he wasn't going to imprint on us. He had other things in mind. He said, no, you guys give me the food, I know that. So he imprinted as well, and we did start training with him. So we do work with both of these guys. We have them trained they go to their stations, they will fly to certain perches on cue, they come to our glove. So we're working on training them, so we're going to be we already take them to the classrooms and can do programs when we're inside. And now we're also working on doing some free flight behavior, so potentially we'll be able to do some programs outside with them as well, having them fly to people, fly over your heads, so you can hear or not hear their incredible silent flight. It's pretty amazing when it's just having them glide by and you have no idea that they're there. So again, these guys are an important part of our ecosystem. So typically with our wildlife that we rescue, our number one goal is to get them back out into the wild. But if we can't, if there's a reason that we strongly feel that they would not survive if we release them, then we do give them a permanent home here at Adastra. And we do our best to try to have them become part of our education programs, so we can teach more people about these wonderful animals that we share these wonderful islands with.
Okay, guys, what did we learn today?
We learned that there are 32 national parks in the Bahamas,
We also learned about the Bahamian boa and the Bahamian parrot.
and that all these endemic animals are Bahamians, just like us.
And they're all beautiful and unique.
Okay, Mike and Mia, let's go.
If you wish to continue learning about the Bahamas, head to percythepotcake.com and get a copy of Percy the Potcake and his Bahamian adventures, and check out other merchandise there. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram and Twitter for updates. See you soon!
Ready, boys and girls? Here we go.
Bahamas.
This spells Bahamas.
Bahamas.
This spells Bahamas.
Bahamas.
This spells Bahamas.
Bahamas.
This spells Bahamas. There's 700 islands and inhabited keys, all to our disposal. 350,000 plus population living in our land. A democratic government leadership, Britain's our advisor. These are important facts, no way to take them back. They're part of history.
Bahamas.
This spells Bahamas.
Bahamas.
This spells Bahamas.
Bahamas.
This spells Bahamas.
Bahamas.
This spells Bahamas. National symbols like the national anthem, written by Timothy Gibson. Our bird, the flamingo, fish, the blue marlin, flower, the yellow elder. There's the national flag, 3 colors it bears, black, gold, and aquamarine. And don't forget the tree is the lignavite, all found in the Commonwealth. Ha ha!
Bahamas.
This spells Bahamas.
Bahamas.
This spells Bahamas.
Bahamas.
This spells Bahamas.
Bahamas.
This spells Bahamas.
Bahamas.
One more time. This spells Bahamas.
Bahamas.
Hey, this spells Bahamas.
Bahamas.
This spells Bahamas.
Bahamas.
Hey, this spells Bahamas. Here we go.
Make sure you get a copy of the Bahama Song by Percy the Potcake wherever music is downloaded.
Bahamas.